Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our East Bay Regional Park District Board Operations Committee. Why don't we go ahead and start by calling the roll for the meeting.
Yes, Chair Corbett. Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Chair Corbett.
Here.
AGM O'Connor.
Here.
And staff presenters and participating staff attending today include Ruby Tumber, Tiffany Margolisi, Dan Sykes, Robert Kennedy, Steve Castile, David Vance. Today's meeting is being held pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361. Board members and staff may participate via phone video conferencing. Public comments may be submitted live via Zoom, via email or voicemail as noted on the agenda located on the Park District website. If there are no questions about the meeting procedures, we will begin.
All right. Any questions before we get started?
Nope.
All right. Welcome everyone. And it's a lovely day, even though we're indoors. And welcome to today's meeting. We have some very nice presentations. And the first one we have on the agenda is item number 2, review amendment to Palmdale Estate Events, Inc., the agreement at Little Hills Recreation Area at Las Trampas Regional Wilderness.
So I just want to do a quick introduction. I'll pass it quickly over to Tiffany. We often have challenges in managing specific issues in parks. This is one that's been happening for about 3 or 4 years at Las Trampas, where we had a history of the scout groups and others using being able to do archery in the park. And because of safety concerns, we shut down that activity for a period of time. And more recently, we worked out with our concession operator a compromise and a solution to that problem, which I think a lot of the folks that I see popping into the meeting here are probably here to speak about. So this is a positive outcome. I think we found a solution here. And with that, I'll pass it off to Tiffany.
Great,
Welcome,
thank you.
Tiffany.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Business Services Manager Tiffany Margolisi, and I will share my screen and take you through some of the background of to how we got to this solution. Okay, does that look good on the screen? Can everyone see that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
So we have quite a few constituents, guests today from representing 2 different scout troops, and also Dave Vance, a unit manager. He's the unit manager that oversees Little Hills, which is part of Las Trampas. So it's just a very brief overview I'll give today, which is where this is proposed to happen, the background, and our recommendation. Little Hills is part of Las Trampas, as we know, and the background on this topic related to archery is that Ordinance 38 specifically says that the board may designate archery areas from time to time. And we have several other archery areas designated. Currently, the Redwood Bowman Special Use Agreement at Roberts Park, the Briones Archers Special Use Agreement, and also the Briones Girl Scouts Special Use Agreement at their Twin Canyons camp. Those are all have gone through a board approval process. And what we're proposing today is to amend the concession agreement at Little Hills to similarly allow for archery. It is a long-standing use at Little Hills and has been part of the summer camp activities at Little Hills for many years. Little Hills hosts a variety of type of events, a lot of weddings, but an important use for the community in the summer is for youth day camps. And it's great to have this location for youth day camps very close to the urban Tri-Valley areas. In December 2021, the board approved our new concession contract with Palmdale Estate Events. And at the same time, staff was receiving a request from 2 different scout groups to continue archery. So our action today is to seek to formalize what has been a longstanding use, what has been successful activity and a lot of fun for kids while being safe. The archery had occurred in a variety of configurations over the years, and this is going to be the preferred location. This is the big meadow that most of us are familiar with. And here's another aerial view of it. So this is where the archery range will be set up. And the arrows, a very important part of this is that the shooting will take place towards the hillside. As shown here, it's a 600-foot to the clearance to the top of that hillside. So it provides a perfect natural barrier and safety barrier to archery. Basically, there's no trails, no hiking trails, and really no public use at all in this entire hillside. So it's the perfect place to point arrows to because there's no danger of anyone else coming within that area. The proposal for Little Hills is to keep it as it has been in the recent years, which is as a temporary range. So the range setup and takedown would occur within the rental timeframe. Like I already said, it'd be pointed towards the hillside, and archery would only occur within the designated range. Here you can see how the scouts have successfully set this up with poles and caution tape so that there's no danger of any, anyone walking through the temporary range area. The concessionaire would be the one to review the safety plan with the rental groups, and there is extensive guidelines within both the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts of America on how adults get trained, what are the ratios of adults, and many different safety measures that the scout groups have been following and would continue to follow. Here's another picture of how it's been done in the past. Again, with that hillside orientation, it's really just a very enclosed area. It's not impacting the public or any other user groups within Las Trampas, and would be taken down at the end of the rental. So that is my overview. And just to review what staff is recommending is that the Board Operations Committee approve and recommend to the full board an amendment to the Little Hills concession agreement with Palmdale Estate Events to include archery as a board approved activity at Little Hills as allowed under Ordinance 38, Section 403.2. And I'll say one more thing about this approach is that by amending the concession agreement to allow for this use, it keeps the door open to any group that would want to approach the concessionaire and do this activity. So it's not exclusive to any one particular scout group. We do have the two groups who have really enjoyed it and advocated for it, but should another group approach the concessionaire and have the equipment and the appropriate safety plan, it would also be open to them as well. And we have the concessionaire, Lindsay Caravelli from Palmdale Estate Events, as well as several archers here to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments any of those individuals would like to add before we ask if board members have any questions? Anything else they might like to add?
Our guest, Tiffany.
Yes.
Would either, I think they're,
Hi.
yeah, I think Jen, Bill.
Yes.
Well-
Hi. I don't know if you want start my camera. Okay. Hi. My name is Jennifer Bill. I am a volunteer director at the Diablo Day Camp, a summer camp run by the Girl Scouts of Northern California. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share why I'm so passionate about being able to offer archery at camp. I actually started archery on East Bay Park's property at Girl Scout Camp in Lafayette in 1981. Archery was new and foreign to me, but over the course of the week, the instructors taught, encouraged, and cheered me on until I got my first bullseye. It taught me self-confidence, resilience, and patience. I went on to become a USA Archery Level 1 instructor, certified to run archery ranges and teach youth. I've run the archery ranges at Little Hills property for both Girl Scouts and the Meridian Cub Scout program. I've had the privilege to teach both my children to shoot at Little Hills, and my daughter was a junior leader at the archery range before COVID, helping other little girls to shoot for the first time. The Girl Scout camp at Lafayette is an offshoot from the camp I attended in the 80s, where hundreds of children were being turned away because of Lafayette's site capacities. The camp offers an opportunity between 350 to 410 campers every year. We allow archery for all campers going into the 4th grade, which is about half of our total campers. Since the camp started, I'm proud to say we've maintained a perfect safety record at our archery range. And the final point I want to make is at our Girl Scout camp, girls are attending for $125 for the week, or as little as $60 a week if they're accompanied by an adult volunteer. We have campers who are attending on financial aid, and every year we have campers who pay for the camp with the proceeds of their cookie sales. This makes our camp accessible to families with a budget constraint. My children have had the opportunity to attend private camps where they've practiced their archery skills, but at a cost that is prohibitive to some of our families. I'm asking you to please grant this permit to allow Little Hills to host archery so both Girl Scouts and Scouts can continue to offer this unique sport to the children of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds like you're having fun.
We are, always.
Would anybody else like to speak? I see a hand raised for Paul Lannis.
Oh, I don't think I can use my video, but good afternoon. Thank you very much for considering this proposal. Here we go. Let me turn on my video. So I am a parent volunteer with the Boy Scouts of America. For the last 4 years, I've been helping run the Meridian Cub Scout Day Camp, which serves the boys and girls in our area, which constitutes Alamo, San Ramon primarily. But we also draw youth from around the Bay Area. Like the Girl Scouts, we have a program where boys and girls participate both on a paid basis. Children can attend camp as low as $50 if their parents volunteer. And we also have camperships. And in fact, we have a lot of kids that come from the Richmond area or the Benicia area on camperships. Certainly archery is one of the most popular activities that we have at camp. We also do STEM and your typical arts and crafts and stuff like that, but they really look forward to archery because that's something they really don't get to experience anywhere else in a very safe environment. It's an activity that we let our 1st grade through 5th graders do. It is on a secured range. Ms. Margalucci showed you a photograph of one of our ranges that had the caution tape, but that was actually part of our buffer zone. We actually have a greater zone that goes around the range to secure it. We have a one range master per 8 student ratio, and usually we have 3 range masters out there for about 12 students. So we really take our time to impart safe skills with these scouts, and usually they have a very good, enjoyable experience. And again, I wanted to thank you very much for considering our proposal.
Thank you very much. And anyone else want to speak before we open it up to the board members? Anyone else? I don't see any hands up. All right. Director Rosario.
Great, thank you. I learned something today. I didn't realize that Little Hills was also used for day camps. So that's great.
More knowledge.
Yeah. My only so I just read that the each of the groups provide their own equipment, and so does the concessionaire. Are they the ones that have oversight to make sure that they're meeting all the requirements of the agreement?
That's correct.
And then I am assuming the groups have their own insurance to cover any accidents out of that range.
Yes, both Scouts and Girl Scouts have requirements that we need to meet, both insurance and regulations.
That is also true for the Boy Scouts. We have a certificate of insurance that we usually file with our contract with the concessionaire, and then also with East Bay Regional Parks listed as an additional insured.
Just to clarify, Director Rosario, moving forward, that the arrangement will be between the concessionaire and the groups directly. So with our concessionaire contracts, they name the park district as additional insured, and then the concessionaire, between the concessionaire and the customer, may also have insurance requirements, just to clarify.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it for me. I think this is a great activity, and it looks safe. Thank you.
Director Wieskamp?
Well, I never indulged in it, but I had a sister, Linnell, who loved it and at the same time managed to get the weirdest bruises every time she went out and did it. But she wouldn't quit anyway. So yeah, no, I think it's an excellent activity, something quite different than the typical ball sports people indulge in. So I think it's safe, and this looks like an excellent location. So great, all Scouts.
Great, thank you very much. And I just have one quick question. Does the park district impose a set of rules for safety purposes? Or are those just provided by the organizations with their users? Or do we have a specific list that we say you must do this and keep safe in this way? How does that work?
So Director Corbett, the amendment with the concessionaire will outline the area, as I showed on the slide, and the general orientation. And then it will state that the concessionaire is then responsible for, between the concessionaire and their customer, for ensuring the appropriate safety guidelines. And then at that point, the Scouts have to follow their own guidelines. But since we're not archery experts, we won't establish the guidelines. But just to say where it has to be located and that a safety plan must be in place.
Yeah, we impose that they must have safety rules that they
Yes.
follow in order to keep folks safe. And they're not directly from us, though.
That's
rules.
correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Sounds like it works well. Any other questions or comments? Anybody else would like to add something to that? It sounds like it's going to be a wonderful spring, now that spring is already here, and using the park for these very fun events. Any other comments? No. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Director Rosario and a second by Director Wieskamp. And I vote aye too. And I know since we're not in a room together, we should have the vote called. Denise, if you
Yes.
could go vote.
Sure. Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Chair Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Okay, that has passed. Congratulations. We hope you have a wonderful time at the park.
Thank you very much. Please stop by and visit.
Yes, we'd
Okay.
like to do that. Let us know when you'd like to have us stop by.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have fun. All right. And the next item we have on the agenda is the Parkland unit update. I think that this is going to be wonderful to hear about all the great things that are going on in these particular parks and other things we can do to continue to make this a great place.
Sounds good. Well, good afternoon, Chair Corbett, committee members. I am Dan Sykes. I'm the Parkland Unit Manager. I've met you before. Last time I came and spoke before this committee was in October of 2020. So I'm going to share on my screen a PowerPoint presentation. And if you just give me a moment, I'll get it set up.
Great. I think it's time for us to take a tour out there too.
Fair enough.
Always a good idea.
Just so you know, Dan hasn't showed up yet.
It's traveling that long distance from Reinhardt Redwood Park over to your office.
The sheet is taking its time. The screen, I should say, is taking its time.
Spring has come.
Does it
Want
need
to try
to
again?
start again?
I'm going to give that another shot. How about that? Okay.
There it is. There it is.
Ta-da!
Right, lovely picture.
Oh, excellent. Okay, then let me get you the full
There we
screen.
go.
There we go.
Okay, everyone hear me all right?
Beautiful. Yeah,
Very
looking good.
nice.
So welcome to the East Bay Hills, and here is Sibley Preserve at the center of the roughly 13,000 acre parkland unit. And we saw fog not so long ago, and it's beautiful and sun shiny out there. So I guess just wait a couple of hours and the weather will change. Today I am here to give you an overview of some project highlights that illustrate what's been happening in the parkland unit since the last time I presented to the committee in 2020. And the past year and a half has been a time of adaptation and innovation for the parkland unit. So that includes responding to challenges, whether they be man-made security issues or natural hazards, climate change. Also meeting current needs that we have been experiencing throughout the parkland unit. And also taking opportunities to innovate using equipment and staff skills that we have in the unit. So I'm going to start by talking about, this is Sibley Preserve, and on the left is a picture of the entrance to the preserve service yard and park residence. So we were fortunate enough to be able to construct some fencing both there and on the picture on the right there is at Tilden Park, the down near Lake Anza. And this was in response to increasing urban crime that we have seen throughout the Park District, but especially in the urban interface and particularly during the pandemic. So we took some measures to deter the crime by installing fences at these locations. Our real aim is we want to be able to preserve the district's investment in both the real estate and the equipment in the parks. In addition, we've needed to respond to, as always, a continual need to look at hazardous trees and throughout the parkland unit. We are seeing many trees decline due to several factors. One of them is age. So like this pine tree on the left here at Anthony Chabot Park, it was just old and had passed its prime and had died. We've also seen drought stress as being a big factor. And then when these trees are in their weakened condition, they've been succumbing to pine bark beetle, the Phytophthora water fungus, which is responsible for sudden oak death. And then also in 2021, we began to see a tree die-off phenomenon, which I know you have heard something about, but I'll just review that the acacias in the parks have been hard hit with two main fungi, the Diaporthe and Dothiorella fungi. And they have other trees that have been affected have been eucalyptus, which have been affected by a leaf blight fungus. So we've been seeing leaf browning, limb dieback, and cankers on the trees, all which indicate that they're in poor health and need to be addressed. So the fire department has been undertaking a series of large-scale tree removal projects, and they are in the midst right now of doing an RFP for a very large project using district and state funds that we've been able to receive. So I don't have, I'm not going to be able to go into detail about that one, but I just want to put that on your radar that those will be coming up. However, what I do want to report on is that the park operations staff has been able to use the Hazardous Tree Fund program that has been funded by the board to fund 24 professional tree felling contracts in 2021, which included this one at the Goldenrod Trail near the Chabot Equestrian Center. In addition to that, as everybody knows, we need to be continuously responding to wildfire safety needs as well. And our local and regional fire departments have requirements for clearing defensible space around our habitable buildings in the parks. So for example, here's a cleared area on the left. You're seeing the Reinhardt Redwood Park. This is up near at Skyline Gate, the residents there. A cleared area around the park residence where flammable weeds and brush have been removed and the trees were pruned up. And then on the right here, you can see we also had the services of a professional tree contractor come in to thin out a stand of dense sequoia, as well as there were oaks and pines that had aged out and were removed from this area. So in addition to that, the fire department, East Bay Regional Park District Fire Department, have contributed heavily to this project. And that has included a real focus on Tilden, Sibley, and Reinhardt Redwood Parks, which are all within the Moraga Arena Fire District, which was one of the requirements we need to meet. The fuels crew and the firefighters put in an estimated 40 days of work since last summer to address habitable buildings within these three parks. This has included extensive removal work around the North County Corporation Yard, the Environmental Education Center, and the two residences in Sibley Preserve. Between the fire department and then also the park operations running contracts for hazardous tree contracts, we've been able to accomplish about $82,000 worth of professional contract work to meet these needs in these three parks. In addition to that, the fuels work that the fire department has been going forward with, they also contributed another $266,000 worth of work along the urban interface along Skyline Boulevard next to Sibley and Huckleberry Preserves. So a significant investment of district time and effort has been put into to meeting these requirements. Some other work that park staff has been working on, we have been needing to respond to climate change. And one of the opportunities we've had made available to us is through the climate change contingency funding that the district has been coming to staff and asking for, hey, what new projects can you be doing to help respond to climate change? So we're fortunate to have one of our employees, Elisa Kim, who's an office assistant, also with a background in restoration. She applied for a grant and received $8,000 and was working along with one of our rangers, Chris Medelsky, to put together a project. This project here that's pictured on the left with several of our staff working on it. It is a project to collect rainwater off of the roofs, off of the roof of one of our restrooms at the Anthony Chabot Family Campground. That water fills the tanks that you can see in the middle of the picture. And then drip irrigation runs down to feed the plants that are located on the hillside below. And there's also a stream cobble feature there, which is intended for if there's any overflow, if the tanks get too full. Fingers crossed, we'll actually get some rain to fill them up. But when that happens, we have that feature is there so that it can allow the water to slow down and not just run off the hillside, but we'll be able to percolate into the soil. So the work was led by Ranger Chris Medelsky, pictured the third ranger from the left there. We're fortunate because he used to be a plumber. So we had some plumbing expertise we could tap into. And then he was assisted by Park Service worker Gary Singer and Ranger April Storm Dancer. And on the far right is Field Chloe Novak. I also just want to point her out. She is one of the first interns from the Conservation and Resource Management certificate program at Merritt College. And so she got a lot of good project experience at Anthony Chabot, including this innovative project. Another thing we've needed to respond to, and the Park District has been responding to, is meeting accessibility needs. And so one example is here at Piedmont Stables, which is in Reinhardt Redwood Park. This is a new ADA accessible ramp. This project was led by the Maintenance and Skilled Trades Department, and some of the specialized trades work was also contracted out. Another example of adapting is at the Botanic Garden, the Regional Parks Botanic Garden. We realized we had a major challenge. We have been trying to continue propagating and raising these native rare plants that we have, and to do it in a clean way that minimizes the chance of spreading plant pathogens. And the one that you've heard of is Phytophthora. So Garden Supervisor Liz Bittner and Garden Manager Bart O'Brien developed this project to take an existing propagation area, which they call the nursery annex, and improve it. So what was done here was they have added expanded metal raised benches to keep plants off the ground, and so they don't sit in a pool of water when they're being watered, or on saturated wooden benches. And this also reduces the possibility of what it does is it reduces the possibility of fungus, the Phytophthora fungus, from infecting those plants. Also, on top of the top of the picture, you can see a retractable shade cloth, which is to provide shade for the workers while they're doing their work. And the ground is also covered by a tarp to reduce the possibility of spreading soil pathogens from below. So Bart and Liz rallied the volunteer group, the Friends of the Garden, to support this. And this was totally supported through generous support of $28,000 through the Regional Parks Foundation and the Friends group. Another area where we have needed to work on is identifying the need for indoor workspace. And we saw a lot of this during COVID, where we have many people working in work areas, and we want to be able to provide everybody enough space to do so safely. And this is in addition to the fact that a lot more of the ranger work is actually being done on workstations and on computers and on the phone, where we need to communicate, especially when we're unable to do so in person. So the Tilden crew, this is at Tilden Park. The Tilden crew has 10 crew members, and when they're all working or on their overlap day at one time. And this is the additional workspace that will be added will make sure that they have enough workspace. The yellow arrow, which should be, which is on the left side there, will show or shows an area where the trade staff is currently taking down that piece of wall to connect to this new workspace area on the right. When the area is finished off, it will be furnished with desks and workstations, and that we'll be working on that this spring. So I wanted to show also some examples of where our park staff has been looking at the existing parks that we do have and seeing where we can innovate to really improve on them. The park staff at Reinhardt Redwood had been looking at how they can improve on a well-loved site, the old church picnic site. And Supervisor Bridget Calvi and her staff were aiming to reduce some of the paved area that had been there from when this used to support vehicle traffic. We've kept some of it, but by reducing the width of it, they've provided more room for redwood tree roots to grow and also created a more intimate trail experience. And they've also taken advantage of using a new piece of equipment in the park, the Toro Dingo walk behind tractor. And they use that to break up the pavement to produce a nice clean edge and then remove the pavement. They also added, they also replaced some of the older split rail fencing that probably Director Rosario put in back in the day. So they've better defined the area and the viewing point, well, as you can see in the picture on the right, with an interpretive panel that talks about the old church area. Another example of trying to take advantage of and make some improvements has been in using again, a Toro Dingo here, which is pictured at Anthony Chabot Park. The staff was trying to solve an issue at the Bort Meadow Big Trees staging area where it had been a frequent place for off-road biking and dirt bikes up on the slope that you can see on the picture on the right. And that was creating erosion and unsightly and damaging the vegetation. So to solve this, they wanted to put in a single rail fence to better define the parking area and keep people off the slope. And the digging was made much easier in the hard rocky ground by using an auger attachment, as you can see here, operated by that's Alex Weber, one of our rangers. So this made the work much more efficient. So staff is really thinking ahead to how they can utilize these tools to make this work more efficient and trying to avoid the time and effort of either renting or having to borrow equipment like this from other parks and having to transport it around. Then a final example I wanted to show you the work that's being done. This is at Wildcat Canyon Park, a great example of innovation and capitalizing on our staff's skills. There has long been a entry trail into the Alvarado picnic area, as you can see on the left side there. It was made of decomposed granite, which during rainstorms was prone to getting rutted or washed away and creating unstable footing because of the steep slope that it's on. So Park Supervisor Steve Donnelly knew that his parkcraft specialist, Brian Wyatt, had experience with laying flagstones and assigned him to sourcing the stone, teaching the rest of the crew how to lay them out and put them in with mortar and construct a nice, attractive and functional walk. And the result is on the right. You can see them still working on it, but it looks terrific and is completely consistent with the look of the other rock work in the park.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So come on out and take a look. So I'm going to stop there with bragging on our Park-Lane unit, but I want to say thank you for stopping by, like our friends, the Ladybugs, who come by every winter and hang out at Reinhardt Redwood Park. And I will share a picture with you of the Park-Lane unit from the last time we had an opportunity to actually get together in person. I'll take any questions.
Looks very nice. Almost as nice as that group of ladybugs. All right. I would just say before I open it up, that was quite impressive. So many wonderful projects and, taking lessons that some people know and teaching them to others and looking at ways things can be changed just to be more useful and safer and pretty. Looks really good. Very, very impressive. All right, directors, who would like to say something? Director Rosario?
Yeah, I'm it's always impressive to see how the skills of our people on your staff rise to the occasion, and especially with this COVID period, to be able to accomplish what you and your crews have done is just so impressive, and the skills that arise. I mean, even coming from Elisa Kim, who's technically a
She's an office assistant.
SOA. And then going to the top, it seems like Wildcat Canyon has always been blessed with incredible parkcraft specialists. And so, yeah, fresh ideas. And I had the pleasure of touring the park this last couple of days ago with Heather Segrist, who used to work for me as a park ranger, and she was the pavement queen, we called her for a while. And she was very, very impressed, and she wanted to take that dingo home. I said, "Oh yeah, seeing all this equipment's like, I want to be a ranger again." So my hat's off to you. And my only question is, what's the average cost now of removing a hazardous tree?
That's a good question. It all depends on timing.
Yeah.
If you have a motivated contractor who doesn't have a whole lot of work, you can get a full-grown eucalyptus removed for, about $1,000.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
we've also had instances where it has been upwards of 3,000.
Yeah.
So it really depends. And then so that's why competitive bidding has always been an important part of our process, and we do that religiously. So they know us now. There's a lot of them who are returning. They return to us, and they know our routines, and they know how our emphasis on being clean and giving us the best price possible.
Yeah. So are you seeing more tree contractors available, or is it just a handful?
I would say about 5 years ago, we were down to a small number. Maybe we would see usually maybe 3 or 4 that would come back to us consistently. Now we have sort of a flow of them. As they're available, they'll bid on the work, and probably 10 or 15 different companies. I'm seeing new names all the time. And I think actually we've created the demand with all of the work that the fire department has been doing. I'm hoping that that's worked to our advantage, because you have very skilled fellers. They know how to work safely around the public. And they know that we want competitive bids.
Yeah. And my last question is, Skyline Gate residence, when's that scheduled to be rehabbed and done?
Did you say Skyline Gate?
Yeah.
It's just was posted today, Director Rosario.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've been watching the progress there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also the Tunnel Road residence is also posted. So the 2 Sibley residences have been posted.
Good.
You're talking about the Sibley. You're not talking about the Reinhardt Redwood residence. That one, I understand there's still some work going on for that one. But the Sibley one, we had 2 vacancies, and those are both been posted.
Okay. Oh, I know that. Last question. You mentioned fencing specifically for the Sibley residences and Lake Anza.
Yep. Mhm.
Do we have cameras there?
Let me think. I think we do. I think neither of those have cameras. No.
Yeah, we don't normally have cameras around residences I guess we could if we had a real serious problem, but for privacy issues, we don't normally have them around residences. And the problem with the Sibley Tunnel Road, that's right next to the service share, as we all know. But we could do that at standalone residences. But as far as I know, I don't know if Tiffany's still on the meeting, but as far as I know, we don't normally do that.
And are they alarmed at least?
They're alarmed. Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, all the parks I've been visiting, they just look fabulous. And like I said, the innovation and it just boggles the mind, and very appreciative. And the public appreciates it too.
Thanks for the kind comments.
Quite impressive. Director Wieskamp.
Well, what can I say following D? Yes, he's come up with one more question, one more comment, but he knows the territory so well. But so do you, Dan. And I really appreciate the hard work everybody's done. So it's been a difficult time. And to try to work on all those trees through this pandemic must have been tricky, to put it mildly. But it's important work. And I keep hoping we're going to come up with some imaginative uses for all these trees we're taking out. It's just a shame not to have a use for all that wood, but hey, maybe things will change. Anyway, congratulations.
Well, thank you. And I'll just say that, you mentioned the difficulties of the pandemic and being people working remotely and everything. Actually, one of the things I found keeps staff motivated the most is to give them productive work to do and give them the opportunities to come up with projects and carry them out. That's what keeps people working.
That's what makes the district successful.
Mhm.
Thank you. So are you saying they're actually having fun?
Yeah, you saw the picture. They're all smiling.
Yes.
Wow.
I would agree with the comments that have already been made by the other directors. And I'm quite impressed by the fact that you can tell people are leaning towards doing things in an environmental way, you know, protecting, saving water for the future, all those sorts of things. And that's quite impressive. And that's something that has changed over many, many, many years. So it's quite impressive to see that really great progressive environmental work. So I have a question, and this is probably not the right meeting to ask that, but at some point maybe we can find out more. Obviously, the trees, many of the trees have to come down so that we're protecting ourselves from fires in the future. And are we putting together a plan for replanting certain trees and choosing and making sure we're picking the local plants that, you know, fit, that are natural and native? Or is that something more in the future? Or is there anything planned?
I can respond from the park operations perspective, from within the unit. I can't speak for how the fire department is addressing that, but for example, at the Anthony Chabot Campground, pictured here, when we've been taking out eucalyptus trees that have been some of the more hazardous ones, or having heavy liens, or historic limb drop, we've been putting in natives. We've been replacing them with big leaf maples, or different kinds of native trees that will provide shade at some point. Not immediately, but we are looking to the future and trying to. And one of the great opportunities of things like the rain garden I showed you is that we're trying to think of like, well, okay, we're going to put these in. How can we consistently keep these watered? And so that's one of the ways that the park staff is trying to innovate. But yeah, we are trying to do plantings like that. In other areas, it's not as appropriate to do the plantings. It really depends. But where we know there's a need for shade, or there's always been, we're definitely doing that.
Yeah, and especially in some areas where things weren't necessarily native and maybe didn't belong there in the first place. And maybe that's why they didn't make it. So, but it's very, very impressive, your thoughts on what you're doing here. It's really great. Thank you. It's beautiful. I know Jim has his hand up too, and I'm wondering if Steve Castile has anything he'll want to say as well. So Jim, and thank you, Dan. Very impressive.
One of the things that's great about Dan's presentation is, and one of the concerns that I know Steve and I share, is that traditionally park rangers have been sort of jack of all trades, a broad set of skills, whether it was construction on buildings, or whether it was trail construction and maintenance, rock work like you see in there, the masonry work. But one of the concerns we've had over the years is that a lot of those, we used to hire a lot of people who came in with a lot of skills, because in the early days, a lot of those people worked in ranches or came from construction industry. And in more recent times, we've been worried about that. Where people come in is they don't grow up with those skills. And so it's great when we see staff doing these projects, because like Director Rosario said, it shares that skill with the other staff, and they can carry that on to other parks as they move around the district. So while we've been trying to ramp up our skills training over time, like chainsaws and other construction type skills, this is also helpful when they do projects like that. So that's why when we come into the budget, and that's one of our considerations, is the project that they can do in-house and pass on those skills. That's great to see the work. And I have seen the work at Sibley, and it's beautiful work, really, really well done. So that's great. The other thing, harking back to the pictures at Redwood, is one of the things we're trying to really do is, as all of you know, we have more people in our parks than ever. And they're literally being loved to death. So in our Redwood parks, we're really working on these barriers around the roots to preserve these trees, because they're already stressed with just dealing with drought, but then also adding in the compression of the soil, the compaction of the soil. So that work, while it seems kind of minor, is super important to these trees to keep those footsteps. And everybody forgets, one of the things that people forget about parks is during their short time at the park, they say, well, you know, it was crowded, but what's the big deal? Everybody forgets that over the course of a year, 10 years, all that accumulated impact of individuals has a real impact. And so that's why things like these fences are really important to helping preserve these redwoods as they deal with climate change. And then the other thing is, who would have thought that we'd have an economic benefit to climate change? We have more people doing tree work out there than ever. So I guess that's a silver lining, but and they are helping us quite a bit, because the amount of work that we have in the park district managing trees, whether they be fuels or hazard trees, is overwhelming. So the combination of our own crews and these contracted crews is the only way we're going to get it done. So I'm glad there's more crews out there and give us some competitive pricing. So that's really great work. So those are my comments. Thank you.
And you know, that work it's so impressive. And I think as a park district that we may have started way out in front of a lot of other places and districts in the whole time frame, you know, how we started earlier in the work we've done against fires. And it would be so nice to make sure that that kind of information that we're learning can be shared with other districts as well. And so we also can get congratulated for the wonderful things we're doing. Tell people how great we are. But I think that would be very, very important to show, because I think we are, you know, way out in front of some other places, and it's things people can learn from what we're doing. So,
well, Dr. Corbett, I would say that we are being recognized, and you know this well, is that our legislative group working at the state level, we're being recognized by giving money, grant money, to do further this work. And I think that's a great recognition. And other agencies are starting to take notice that we are getting those fundings, because we are ahead of the curve and we're addressing it directly. So, but good point. But in terms of actually within our own profession, that's a good point about being recognized. I think other agencies are going to start to look to us, because we are way ahead of that scale. And hopefully that'll have a great benefit if and when we do have a fire.
Yeah. So along the state level, but also the national level.
It's true.
You know, how we're out in front, because we've learned some things. Unfortunately, we had a really bad fire a lot earlier than everybody else many years ago in the open hills. But being able to show people what we've learned, and so that they can learn before they have other additional issues. So anyway, very, 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 very impressive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, our hazardous tree program was leading edge too. And when Sue Ferrero, who was a park supervisor at Anthony Chabot, when she became the head of parks at Berkeley, she brought our program of hazardous tree surveys there, and she couldn't believe they didn't have anything. And now they're doing it on a regular basis, and they use that to do their hazardous tree surveys annually, and it's part of their policy. So, and in regards to, I have one question regarding hazardous trees. It was is it all digitized now to where you can just go out with an iPad and put it down? Because we used to always have to put it on paper and translate it. And is it more organized?
Steve, I think Steve has an answer to that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been working with GIS and on Parkview. Our staff have now, I just took the class with staff last week or the week before on the hazardous tree training on the annual one that we do. So we just trained up another 15, 20 people. And GIS came on board and is actually teaching online basically on how to use the iPads, as you're talking about, which are issued through GIS to target, locate, and badge the trees. So it's cumulative data that's collected with the ratings and shows the progression of it and why we're doing it with photographs, everything like that. So it's come leaps and bounds over the last several years. We're still doing some on the paper model until we kind of convert everybody over to it, but we're on our way.
That's fabulous, because it was kind of tedious.
Yes. And so now all you have to do is you hit the button on there, it pops up the databases, you update your ratings on there, and then you hit, sync, and then it syncs the databases.
Cool.
Amazing.
And Steve, that's just another project that you moved us updated on. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, with the
Wow.
help of, Park GIS and everybody else. It's been great. And going back to the other question about the tree plantings, we work really collaboratively with the fire department as they're thinning things out, and in the fuels management, we're hand in hand with them on that with their crews. We actually, work together. We team up on tree felling projects when possible. The other thing too that's going on is that successional plantings, we work closely with stewardship, and we're actually using their best management practices to make sure that the material that we're purchasing in for the tree establishment is pathogen free. So we're using their best practices with nurseries that are producing pathogen free material. And we're also, where possible, if it's like an oak that's out in the field that has sudden oak death or something of that nature, that's recognized, identified, and we usually chip that on site, so we're not spreading that material around either. So it's a whole nother process in the way that we're doing things. We're not just taking everything and getting the tree contractors in there and hauling the material out. We're actually doing it systematically within our best management practices for sustainability moving into the future.
And Director Rosario, I could tell you also that Santa Clara County, when I was in Santa Clara County, we had a tree fatality, and we modeled our hazardous tree program after the district program. So another agency that did the same thing.
Very nice. Maybe we should write some books that we can sell or have some classes, and we can teach people and bring them in and from other districts. It might not be a bad thing to think about, or teach them at the community college, Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, there you go. We're working on that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have some comments about this really impressive presentation?
Considering it's all those bad trees are a liability, isn't it amazing how we're doing such a good job of taking care of it in the best possible way? And it takes a lot of time and energy.
Oh yes, excuse me, go ahead. I have a quick question about sharing information from, district or unit to unit. Is there ever times when another unit besides yours gets to come in and have a conversation with how you did things in your area so that they can learn? Is that done? Do we trade those, great projects?
Definitely. In fact, I've got sorry.
Oh, go
Go ahead,
I don't want to talk over you. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I have a great example of where the Wildcat Canyon staff wanted to learn more about Phytophthora. And we have some beautiful heritage oaks around the Alvarado picnic area that we wanted to save if we could. So they brought in a tree expert who looked at all of the trees, gave us some recommendations about which ones could be saved, which ones just needed to be propped up or pruned or weight taken off, and then, or if they could inoculate some of them against the Phytophthora. And they also hosted a day for other staff to come over. And so we invited other crews to come, and so they could all learn from this expert. So it wasn't just one crew that was learning it, it was multiple. So we do, and then with some of this new equipment that we we're also trying to share that information so people can learn best practices and how to, safety and best ways to maintain them. So there was a work day at Reinhardt Redwood where they were showing how they were doing some of this really cool trail work that was made, more that they could do better with this equipment.
How impressive. Do we keep records of those projects and then put them somewhere in a book or a document so someone can go look it up some other time? Do we sort of keep that?
Jim, should I let you take this one? This is where you get to shine.
Yeah, this is Director Corbett. One of the, we've adopted a work tracking program called Asana. It's a work planning and work tracking program that we use within the operations division, and some of the other divisions also started using it. But it's a great system where we can track all the communications, the emails, and photos of projects. And so Ruby, our management analyst, pulls all that together, and we actually do an annual report on that, and we track that. So, but anyway, one of the reasons we adopted this program was so that what we were finding is, as the district was transitioning and people like Director Rosario were retiring, what was happening is we were losing some history on projects. So we adopted this Asana program where now we can track all that information, keep it all in one place, and then have it as a historic record into the future. So we are tracking and keeping that information within the software program on the
Okay.
network. Yeah.
Good to know.
That's a
right.
great thing. Because I
Thank
know
you.
when I retired, I don't know if the day after I retired, I found out that they basically wiped out my computer. And it had everything. It had spreadsheets for all the projects and all.
Ooh.
I mean, and no one had said to give that information to the SOA over there with the unit manager. It was just all on that computer, and the computer got wiped out. And so poor Jeff Manley, who followed behind me, he was operating blind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of what we're doing over time and in the division is we're trying to get like all of the infrastructure mapped in parks and put in GIS.
Yeah.
So it's not in some park supervisor's head and then they leave and we lose it all, or in files that somebody deletes.
Yeah.
And the Asana program is another one where we can keep track of information and it's put in the cloud, right? So it's not just locally can be lost. So that's what we're trying to do is make things that aren't just living in people's heads, that it's actually in a form that we can actually pass on to the next generation, especially park supervisors. When they move or they retire, we lose so much information, and we're trying to get around that and not depend on individuals like that, because it needs to be available to everybody.
Which reminds me, Dan, you have some movement in your park supervisors.
Yeah, when Jim was talking, I said I missed a golden opportunity to announce we have a new Tilden Park supervisor. So the position is going to be filled by Sarah Motley. So Sarah is the current park supervisor at Anthony Chabot in Leona Canyon, and we'll be moving over to Tilden next week.
Right.
So then we'll have a vacancy at Anthony Chabot. So that'll be the next
Yeah.
step.
And the dominoes continue.
Yes. They never end, as you know. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think Sarah is up for the challenge. She's very organized, and she has the right temperament.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a steady hand at Tilden. That's a difficult
Yeah.
park, as you know.
Yeah, can be stressful.
They all have their individualities. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for this wonderful report. We'll come see you someday. That should be what our next trips are. Thank you so much. All right. So we'll go to the next item, which is public comments.
Yes, Chair Corbett, we did receive one request to speak from Kelly Abreu, so I'll be admitting him into the meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mr. Abreu. It is your time to speak. You will have 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Hello, Kelly.
Hello. I was just listening on the YouTube, which is many seconds or minutes behind, so I have no idea what was just said. So I'd like to comment on 2 things. One is on your eucalyptus clearance tree forest preservation efforts, and secondly is a public comment. But so let's get into the trees. Somebody was talking about how it's a shame that that these trees have no value. Well, they don't have any value, and there's a very good economic reason for that. This is a very low density store of energy, very low density. That's why people stop using firewood by and large, is because it's low density and it's dirty. And so if you're going to go out some random hillside and pull out some random tree and drag it around and process it and carry it to a point of use, and unless you're doing it to build a subdivision and you've got the trees all nicely arranged in a plantation, of trees that some forestry company like Boise Cascade or whoever is cranking them out, or you're cutting down some, virgin forest in the Amazon, you're not going to make money cutting down trees. And then the need for the cutting down for doing this, we're saving, trying to save these. People think it's about fire safety. It's not that anymore. It's about climate change and aridification. And 2 weeks ago, the San Francisco Chronicle just had a great report about this, quoted a lot of experts, and some of them were from Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and talked about how the forests are dying in California, had lots of numbers, and their suggestion, 80% of the trees are going to have to be cut down, was their suggestion, in order to save the remaining trees. Cut down 80% of the trees. So, and these people are foresters, they're or whatever, natural resources professors or God knows what. So they're supposed to know about the subject. Why is that? Because you can't just throw in native. The word native. The problem here is not that we have foreign or exotic trees or exotic plants, and we're going to replace them with native. We have a climate that's changing. So the same old native redwood is a native tree, but you can't. Redwoods are not going to survive everywhere. They might die off or whatever, an ash or an oak. Oaks are dying. A lot of these things may not survive, and they're going to be replaced. What's happening is forests are being replaced by grass and shrubland, and that's due to climate change. All right. And then a quick little story about tree safety, tree mortality.
Mr. Brew, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay, I have 3 more minutes, don't I? Well, why don't you get to your public comments?
This is the public comments item.
No, it's not. It's a comment on the agenda item 2 or 3. Is it not?
You stated agenda items 1 or 2 in your email, and this is.
No. You read the email again. Let's go back. Let's read it. Read it carefully. If we're going to be, doing this legalistic.
Chair Corbett, are you open to allowing Mr. Brew's initial comments to be related to item number 3?
Yep, 3 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. So have we officially moved to item number 4, public comments?
Yes,
No, it's item 3, public comments, isn't it?
No, we are on item 4, as you had stated earlier. YouTube is behind.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not
Zoom
for
is
public
live.
comment.
Way behind. And
So
yeah.
go ahead and proceed, Mr. Brew. You have 3 more minutes. Begin now.
So just a quick thing about the tree, not tree mortality, human mortality, tree safety or whatever. Here in Newark, I know a lot of people don't pay attention to Newark, especially on the board, but Newark right here a few years ago, so not few, maybe 5 years ago, somebody died. A tree fell on them, and they were sitting there, their family, whatever, was sitting there in a park. Tree fell over and killed them. So that's how dangerous trees are. And this is not the first person who's been killed by a falling tree. It happens more often than people think. I have a son. My son was at the University of California, Berkeley, walking down the street and, or actually a parking lot, whatever. An eucalyptus tree fell over and nearly killed him. He was lucky to get out of the way, but he's young and fast at that time. So he was, and then he had to wait for an hour for the fire department to cut up the tree. Coming back to public comments on redistricting, all of us are paying such lip service, and it's only lip service, to the idea of Tri-Valley unity, and we all admit that Danville and San Ramon are part of the Tri-Valley. But rather than going and grabbing those people that are Tri-Vallean people, the true native Tri-Valley peoples of the most most Tri-Valley you can get, they're honestly part of the Tri-Valley, Danville and San Ramon. There's no doubt about it. Rather than that, we have redistricting proposals that are going and grabbing, fighting over pieces of Newark or Union City or Fremont. This is, and then we have this comment that I heard from my own board director representing me, that no one in Fremont has complained about gerrymandering Fremont. No one is listening. And then I heard another comment from another politician telling me that I wasn't talking enough. Seriously. I'm not caught. So, and anyone at the Park District, anyone else, as the first person at the Park District who's ever said that to me, that I didn't talk enough. But I'm here to talk about this redistricting. And we've got 2 proposed maps out there, one from Bart, one from me. And it can be done. And it can be done very fairly, very easily, and very logically. And we can keep the Tri-Valley together. We can keep the Tri-Cities together. Tri-Cities, by the way, is Fremont, Union City, and Newark. And these wards are gerrymandering those like there's no tomorrow, very, very badly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Okay. And then are there any additional committee comments? Item number 5. And then the next item on the agenda is the Assistant General Manager comments.
Chair Corbett, I have no comments for this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I have a question. Are we considering going back to letting groups like REI used to help us on building trails? And they did such a great job. It was amazing, over 100 people at a time. Are we at a point where we can consider that? Because I know we've been talking about various trail construction projects.
We've been back to doing those types of projects. It's just a matter of ramping back up to doing that. So
Sure.
As long as they're outdoors, it shouldn't be an issue. So it's just a matter of having them, it'd be based on these groups themselves, whether or not their organizations are doing that. But
Sure.
we're open to the volunteer projects, just a matter of them being up to doing that again.
Well, I just wondered if we were reaching out to any. I just know REI seemed to always do a very good job and turn out a very large crew. It seemed like a very symbiotic relationship we had there.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, Director Wieskamp, let me just do an outreach to Jessica Sloan, our volunteer coordinator,
Okay.
and find out what what's going on out there and what's going on with these groups and whether or not they're reaching out or whether or not we're reaching out to them and communicating. So I'm not sure if it was, mostly recently because of the Omicron surge
Sure.
that things backed off again, but I know that Jessica's
Don't want to
been
rush
reaching
it.
out. Yeah, so let me get you. I'll send the committee an updated email on what's happening with that program.
And recently on Next Door, somebody reported seeing otters up at Del Val. Is that something new?
I haven't heard of otters at Del Val, but that doesn't surprise me. I've not heard of anything about it.
It's amazing
recently.
where they can go, I guess.
Maybe Director Rosario, you've been around long enough. Have you heard of otters at Del Val? By river otters,
I believe
obviously.
so. I don't think they're, I mean, it's not, they've been there before.
Maybe we ought to talk to Shelley. She's the one who's most likely to know.
Matt should know.
And I believe we've seen them in Jewel Lake too.
Oh, yeah.
So they've been around.
Lake Temescal.
Great.
Mhm.
Anyway, the people were excited who'd seen them, let me tell you.
That would be great.
I have a follow-up question that Director Wieskamp just brought up about volunteer projects. Can we follow up and see what's happening with the Ivan Dixon trail program too?
That's a good idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who came specifically for those.
Lots of energy in there.
I'm actually meeting with some of the Trails program staff after this meeting, so I'll ask and see what's going on there.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Sounds good. Well, great meeting, everyone. Great projects, great stories, lots of good stuff going on. And thank you all for all your questions and your interest. And thank you to our amazing and wonderful staff for everything that they're doing. It's quite an impressive park district, thanks to them.
It is. Thank you for the comments.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. And if
Well
that's it, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
We are adjourned.
Okay,
Well,
we're adjourned.